will now reconvene the regular meeting of the Lompoc City Council for Tuesday, September 6, 2022. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Vega.
Here.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Present.
Councilmember Cordova.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Ball.
Here.
Mayor Janelle Osborne.
Here. Mr. Malave, do we have any reportable action from closed session?
The City Council met in closed session to discuss the one existing litigation item, Mayor, the EDC versus City of Lompoc. Staff had a discussion with council and gave direction, council gave direction, but no reportable action was taken.
Thank you. Chaplain McClellan, please come forward, and we will have the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Almighty God, creator and sustainer of life, we invite your presence, wisdom, and guidance into this meeting and in all council deliberations. We give thanks for the freedoms that we have in this country and in this city of Lompoc to invoke your presence, authority, and knowledge in all discussions and deliberations. Thank you for the right of free speech in this great country, a country where every voice can be heard. We pray that this privilege be honored with speech that reflects truth and transparency. May all who speak tonight do so with a conviction of their beliefs and values, but always with respect not only for their own concerns and interests, but also with a desire to understand the concerns and interests of others. Teach us not to only do what we believe are the right things to do, but teach us how to do the right things in ways that are pleasing to you. Give each member of this council and all who may speak tonight the will and wisdom to do both. Thank you for our dedicated staff who have prepared tonight's consent calendar. May their work and recommendations be appreciated and duly considered. May every aspect of our city operations and every employee be valued and understood as essential to the well-being, readiness, strength, and resiliency of our community. Please protect their bodies, minds, hearts, and spirits as they faithfully serve with clarity of purpose and integrity. May those who serve in our community, in whatever capacity of leadership, may they be strengthened by a sense of common purpose. May opportunities for collaboration and cooperation be sought at every level of our city planning, such that our city may realize the greatest good for the greatest number. Remind us that we are your stewards. Give us hearts and minds to lean not only on our own understanding, but in all things acknowledge your authority over all things great and small. And finally, all-knowing God, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of your purpose. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we've got two proclamations this evening, so let's start with the Lompoc Concert Association's 75th season, and I'd like to invite Mr. Larry Lee and Gail Clark-Savage to the podium. So we were so excited to stand here, that way the lovely cameras can see you and turn around and sort of face the audience. Just keep rotating. There we go. We were so excited by this, we did this last month. And so we're going to do it again because we really do appreciate the fact that you guys have been around for 75 years. So this proclamation honors the Lompoc Concert Association's 75th season. Whereas the Lompoc Concert Association, LCA, conducted its first season in 1948-49 and is pleased to celebrate its 75th season this year. And whereas this nonprofit association is an all-volunteer organization which fosters appreciation of the musical arts by bringing national and international performers to Lompoc through an annual series of affordable concerts. And whereas LCA offers master classes to Lompoc Unified School District music programs and offers complimentary tickets to participating students and their families and teachers. And whereas LCA donated its 9-foot Chickering concert grand piano to the First United Methodist Church in 2013, making this magnificent instrument available for use by LCA, the Lompoc Pops Orchestra, the Lompoc Chorale, and other performing arts groups since its restoration by the church in 2014. And whereas LCA seeks to encourage public appreciation of the live arts and the teaching of music and its history, thereby enhancing Lompoc's cultural life. And whereas the Lompoc Concert Association will open its 75th anniversary season at the First United Methodist Church on September 17th. Now, therefore, I, Janelle Osborne, Mayor of the City of Lompoc, California, do hereby congratulate the Lompoc Concert Association on the occasion of its 75th anniversary and declare the week of September 12th through the 17th, 2022, Lompoc Concert Association Week, and encourage the residents of Lompoc to support this wonderful organization and its talented musicians through attendance of their live performances. Thank you so very much for your stewardship, for always bringing culture and music to our community, and we are just so excited about the 75th year and hope for continued years of celebration. The microphone is yours if you'd like to say anything.
Thank you, Mayor Osborne. I'm Larry Lee, the president of the Lompoc Concert Association. I'd like to take a moment to say what our mission is. Our board works with artist agencies to bring outstanding musicians from all across the country and beyond. We offer quality and variety at reasonable cost. We've been part of the cultural life of Lompoc for 75 years. What distinguishes our concerts is that the artists are very engaged with our audience. They share their stories, their love of music, and they bring us wonderful performances. We go away better for having experienced it. So I invite all of you here to please join us for our community concerts.
Hello, I'm Gail Clark-Savage, Vice President of the LCA, and I wanted to invite all of you also to go to our wonderful Lompoc Library, where we have a wonderful 75-year display of our history in one of their cases, and I know you'll enjoy it. It's very fascinating. We spent quite a bit of time going through lots of books and things like that, coming up with putting it together. So I do invite you to take a look at that, and again, as Larry said, please come to our concerts. The first one is the 17th, and our doors open at 6:30. Thank you very much.
All right. Will the members of our community that are here for Constitution Week come on up? So this is Constitution Week proclamation. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law, and whereas September 17th, 2022 marks the 235th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. And whereas it is the privilege and duty of the American people to commemorate the 235th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America with appropriate ceremonies and activities. Now, therefore, I, Janelle Osborne, Mayor of the City of Lompoc, California, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2022, as Constitution Week in the City of Lompoc, and urge our citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities with which that privilege involves. Thank you so very much. Podium is yours.
Well, don't leave.
All right. I'll stay right here.
We have a gift for you and all the members of the council.
Okay.
Usually, we give you just the Constitution, but this year you get the preamble and the Constitution, a flag, and the rules of the flag.
Awesome.
So I will present this one to you,
Thank you.
and then I'll give this to your secretary, and she can pass those out.
Awesome. Thank you so very much.
And for all those in the audience, I will be outside with the same package for those of you that are interested in copying the Constitution.
Thank you so very much. On to the city manager's report. Mr. Albro, floor is yours.
Yeah, I wanted to thank our Parks and Recs division for a few things. One is I wanted to thank them for the work they did at Riverbend Park, getting ready for soccer season to kick off. They did a great job out there. Also, the City Hall, they did a great job. They're here on the weekends doing the east side, and again, it's looking great around City Hall. But I also want to bring attention to the Aquatic Center. We normally have an average of about 175 patrons go there on a weekend. This weekend with the heat wave, we had 410 on Saturday, 517 on Sunday, and 372 on Monday. So good to beat the heat. I appreciate all the efforts they did to keep that rolling. I also wanted to bring to your attention, Brian Halverson brought to you guys the Streetscape Multimodal Transportation Improvement Plan. And we got word from Caltrans that they were potentially funding $4.9 million. So we'll be trying to work with them with priorities. I thought that was pretty exciting to bring to your attention. So thank you. That's all I have.
Well, congratulations to the Planning Department and the Community Development Department for a $4.9 million award so shortly after approving the multimodal plan. That's really exciting news, and we look forward to hearing what that will encompass. Any questions for our city manager? Seeing none, we will go on to consent calendar. Before we take public comment, I believe our HR manager has a statement that needs to be read, and then we'll move on to it.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, members of the council, audience, and audience watching at home. Item number 3 on the consent calendar is an amendment to the compensation plan for certain managerial, supervisory, confidential, and unrepresented city employees. It adjusts the salary for those city employees as listed in the staff report and the attachments. Staff's recommendation is to adopt item number 3 as written. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Public comment for consent calendar is now open. You can come to the podium for a max of 3 minutes, or you may call in at 805-875-8201. Floor is now open.
Deb Andrews, Lompoc. I oppose the county-wide library system. I oppose things that are centrally organized in favor of Lompoc first agencies or organizations or things for citizens to take advantage of. Lompoc has unique needs that are different from other cities in the county, so I oppose the county-wide library system. Number 3, adoption, amending the compensation plan. We're spending a lot of time on staff situations and salary considerations, and I still see that there are opportunities lacking for youth in Lompoc. So what are the priorities? Is your responsibility to staff, or is your responsibility to residents? I'm concerned about number 5, the change in wording from Senior Neighborhood Preservation Officer to Senior Code Enforcement Officer. That's a wide gap in the terminology. It smacks of the grease trap scenario that we went through with our small businesses that was a disaster for many. So the Neighborhood Preservation Officer change to Code Enforcement Officer is a really big change, and it's not the road that we want to go down.
Did we have any written communications on consent calendar?
No, ma'am, nothing.
All right. Not yet, consent calendar. Oral communications is the time for that one. All right, seeing no one else rise and no one call in for consent calendar, we will bring it back to council. All items listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted after one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown. Prior to the council vote, any items withdrawn from the consent calendar for separate discussion will be addressed immediately before the second oral communication near the end of the meeting. Any questions for staff or a motion on the floor? Councilmember Ball.
I'll make a motion to accept consent calendar.
All right.
I'll second.
And we have a second from Councilmember Vega. Any other questions? Seeing none, let's vote. And that passes 5-0. All right. We will now have a staff presentation from the City Parks and Rec Division to provide information on the Parks and Rec capital improvement projects.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jason Rojas, and I am your new Parks Project Coordinator with the city. I am here this evening to provide you with an accurate high snapshot level of the Parks Division status update of the projects that we currently have in process. My goal here is tonight is to get us on the same page moving forward. This slide represents a current project list that we are currently working on and that we will run through this evening. Again, my plan here tonight is to go over each project more on a high level and then present back on the 18th of October with more detailed construction-related information for each of these project sites. The site that we're going to be taking a look at this evening is at Beatty Park. There are 3 phases of construction currently at this site. Phase 1 was the installation of the new playground, which you can see here on this photo. Phase 2 was the installation of the site lighting, which you cannot see on this photo, but both Phase 1 and 2 have been completed. We are working on closing out both of those phases now, and I will provide you with a timeline of that closeout package on the 18th. Phase 3 is doing some parking modifications in the parking lot to accommodate for ADA accessibility. We have received a design plan from our architect, and we are working on a few different options to complete that out. Again, I'll have more detailed information as far as a timeline and construction schedule on the 18th. Our next site is Thompson Park. Thompson Park, we are looking to demolish the existing play structure that you see kind of in the center of the site, as well as replacement of the existing asphalt pathways that are strung throughout the parkway, which you can see here on site. The pathways are going to be replaced from asphalt with concrete. The tot lot you can see is going to have a new pour in place and then a new play structure in there as well. And then rounding out the work on this site, at the top left corner, you can see where the existing horseshoe pits are. Those are going to be rehabbed, and then a cornhole toss is going to be added to that as well. The PO has been awarded to the contractor. Right now, we're working on finalizing the material selection, and the vendor will provide us with a timeline of the materials on site. Once we get an ETA of those materials, I will be able to provide you with a detailed construction schedule. The next project on the list is at the Aquatic Center. At the Aquatic Center, we currently have 3 open projects on site. The first project is the ceiling panel and motor replacement. The second one is the dehumidification improvements. We are looking to address 2 of those units in this phase. And the last portion of this project is the replacement of the pool heaters for the competition and therapy pools. All 3 of these projects have been gone out to bid, and they have been awarded. We're working on the logistics now to get those projects started and off the ground. I am very hopeful to have a schedule on all 3 of these phases of construction at the Aquatic Center by the 18th. Ryan Park is the next site on our list. Ryan Park, we have a few different projects that we're taking a look at. The first one we're going to talk about is the tennis court rehabilitation and the addition of pickleball courts on the existing site. This is an older conceptual plan We are actually looking to install the pickleball courts up towards the parking lot, so it'll be closer to the baseball field you see referenced here in this photo. We're looking to add 8 pickleball courts and rehab the existing 4 tennis courts. The second portion of Ryan Park is to address the existing tot lot play area. This is a conceptual. This is more of a forecasted project, but it is on our list, and it is something that we are actively working on. JM Park is a project that we have been taking a look at several items at this park for quite a while. Right now, we're looking to replace the existing concession stand restroom facility that is on site. We had gone through an ADA feasibility study years ago, and this was one of the plans that we had taken a look at. We're looking to demolish the existing restroom concession stand facility and install this drop-in unit. We're also looking to include ADA accessible pathways to and from this new facility, and also from the parking structure. Part of this scope, we will also be looking to explore other items that need to be addressed at JM Park as the budget will allow. College Park is a current site right now that we've had quite a bit of community input on, involvement on in the last year. We're looking to replace the existing skate park here on site. Currently, our existing skate park is roughly 9,000 square feet, and we're looking to develop a new skate park that's roughly 15,500 square feet. So the footprint will increase. We're also looking to add on-site tot lot play area, 2 half-court basketball courts, restroom, and then other seating amenities on site. As mentioned, we've had quite a bit of community input. We're looking to have a construction drawing design kickoff meeting September 13th. That meeting, we're going to focus on the skate park and the amenities that we're going to place within that footprint. There's been several meetings and discussion on the size of each amenity we're looking to place here. So we're not looking to modify any of that during this meeting on the 13th. All we're focused on is to address which amenities we plan to put into this project. Pioneer Park is another park that we've had on the list for quite a while. I guess you can say they all have, but we've taken a look at quite a few different things here. For Pioneer Park, we're anticipated to receive a $1.26 million indirect funds from the U.S. Helper Representative sponsored by Congressman Carbajal. We are anticipating to receive word on those funds probably by the end of this year. But in the meantime, we're developing a scope of work to replace the existing playground structure, add some exercise equipment, and then also do improvements to the baseball field. Again, we're working some different scenarios and drafting budgets for this project. And as we get closer to the final amount of funding that we do receive, we'll be able to finalize that scope of work and really define what it is that we're going to do with these funds. The next item on my list is for River Park. River Park, we are looking to add additional RV campsites and follow the existing model that you can see here in this photo. This photo represents new RV campsites that we've installed on site. It includes a drive-on or park-on pad for the RVs. The surrounding area is filled in with decomposed granite. There's full hookups and fire rings. We're looking to continue this model throughout the park. Working on different scenarios. We have received bids for this next phase of work. And once we get a few more bids in place, we'll be able to see how many of these sites that we can develop and rehab. The last item I have for tonight is just a placeholder really for the master plan. Currently, I'm gathering data, or we're gathering data and formulating a game plan to approach this master plan. Currently taking a look at our current site status, and then also taking a look at the maintenance requirements for each site. Part of this master plan will include a future look ahead and try to take a look or to identify potential new park development sites for the future. Also, we want to take a look at our maintenance on a 5 or 10-year look ahead, so we can forecast and have a better understanding of what it is or what our needs are going to be moving forward to help us with our budgets. As previously mentioned, I'm planning to represent here on October 18th, and I am planning to provide you with more of the detailed construction information, and I will have construction timelines for most of these projects that are in construction or near to start construction. And that is all I have for you this evening.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Welcome aboard, Jason.
Thank you.
A couple of things. I'd like you to include in your October report status of the Beatty Park parking lots. You have the ADA accessibility aspect of it, but we have shut down the 2 southern parking lots because of the squirrel and undermining, et cetera, et cetera. If we could get some kind of a what are we going to do or a plan for that, would appreciate. You've mentioned the September 13th public input meeting a couple of times based on the skate park and pickleball and all that.
Yes.
When and where? Put it out there now.
I know for the 13th, we're planning for the College Park, we're planning to meet prior to our Parks and Recs Commission. For the pickleball community, we're looking to reach out to the community. I don't think that meeting has been sent out yet, but we're targeting to set that out. I don't have a location of where that's going to be. My guess or my hope would be that it'd be on site for us to take a look at the different sites.
Just a few days away here.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I mean, now's a good time. Get it out and do them all at the same time, but thank you.
Okay.
So the College Park community input, it has been published, and it is Tuesday at City Hall at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Councilmember Ball.
Thank you. Jason, I just want to say thank you for joining the City of Lompoc and for helping us up our game when it comes to our parks. I know this town has been waiting on anything to happen, and it looks like we've got a lot of efforts and some investment finally starting to happen. I appreciate everything you said. I love the work that's happening. I think the master plan is critical to our long-term future. And my only comment, you had mentioned a couple things, is that looking at new opportunities or new sites, I would just submit that until we can figure out how to sustain and maintain the sites that we do have, keep them healthy. We've had parks where people can't use them because we don't have a plan. So until we can get a habit of sustaining quality parks, I think that obviously should be our priority. If we can prove ourselves over time, then maybe we can do something new and outside the box, but just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Jason? And I would like to say welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Very happy to be here.
You know, you did great work while you were here before, and I was so excited the second day you were at work to run into you and see that you had returned and taken on this responsibility. So keep at it. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Now we will have oral communications on any city-related matter that is not currently on the agenda. So if you would like to speak to an item, you have 3 minutes, and you may call in at 805-875-8201 or come to the podium for your 3 minutes. Absolutely. Make him wear the sandwich board in order to, yeah.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, citizen people of Lompoc and surrounding areas. My name is Darrell Tullis. Loved that last presentation because I used to be a Parks and Recs Commissioner for about 3.5 years, so it's nice to see money being put into our city parks. Anyway, I'm here tonight to talk to you about a music festival that we have coming up on the 24th of September. I don't know if you can focus on that, but anyway, these will be around town. They are around town. We're also advertising in Victor Jordan's paper, the Lompoc Vision. We've got some really good entertainment coming. I had the opportunity to be VIP security for the Oxnard Jazz Festival back in 2019. And the gentleman that puts on the San Diego, Long Beach, and Oxnard Jazz Festivals is helping me put on this music festival here. Years ago, when I was a Parks and Recs commissioner, I used to talk about the fact that we needed to bring things to Lompoc, to bring people here so that we had people to come in and enjoy our community. And so I've been talking about it for years and finally got an opportunity to possibly make it happen myself, and I've got some good help from around the community. And now I'm just asking for everybody to please come out and enjoy the last Saturday of September, the 24th. We'll be starting around 10 o'clock in the morning and going till about 9 in the evening. It's an all-day concert. We've got local entertainment from Jacob Cole. A lot of you know him from Sudden Sparks. He and his father used to own right next to Southside Coffee Shop. We've got Jazz in Pink. We've got Johnny Britt, Louis Beltran Cruz, Malo, Michael Langton, Nils, Paul Taylor, Rising Sun, and Rose Royce. A lot of you will remember Rose Royce from the Car Wash movie. Anyway, want to invite you all out. Got entertainment for pretty much everybody. And this is a family-friendly event, although we will have alcohol there. There will be some alcohol, but it will be controlled. We won't have anybody stumbling over anybody in the park. That wouldn't look good on a minister to put something on like that, so we're not going to have that happen. But anyway, we would love for you to come out, support it. Can I offer tickets? I don't know. I'm not selling them here, but
What you can do is announce your website for more information.
if you'll go to lompocmusicfestival.com, you can find out a lot of information there. My phone number, can I do that?
Absolutely.
805-717-0912. And for the next 20 people that call, buy one, get one free.
You would do that to us. We're stuck up here.
Deb Andrews, Lompoc. On the videos, the date of city council meetings is listed to help selection of a particular meeting. However, once a selection is made, the date disappears, which can result in viewing a meeting not selected. That happened to me. Please put the date on city council meeting videos so that the date appears as the video is playing. The COVID lockdowns and distancing isolated individuals in our community. Now more than ever, city leadership is called upon to develop opportunities to unite and engage our residents. Friday Old Town Market is a great example of a well-attended and vibrant community gathering. It should be extended year-round. We have support for it from the dais. Do it. Have music at the gazebo on Wednesday, similar to Solvang's Music Wednesdays. Show historical documentaries at Stone Pine Hall with a moderator or at Anderson Rec Center. Sponsor gardening and canning classes to foster food independence. Offer free Colt bus rides to Surf Beach. I oppose any anonymous reporting system. Responsible people will identify themselves. Irresponsible people are more likely to submit false reports if anonymous. If false reporting can be done to the President of the United States, it can happen to you. Anonymous reporting aligns with the new market that flourished under the Nazis in Germany. It was suggested from the dais that more women get involved in local politics. Group identity divides us. Membership in specific groups does not ensure good governance. Citizens require leaders capable of critical thinking and logical reasoning. We require leaders with reading and math skills. Leaders who will stand up and do the right thing on behalf of Lompoc residents. Sometimes it may be difficult, but to do the right thing. Thank you.
Floor is still open if you'd like to come forward.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, members. I saw Mr. Rojas today. I'm a part of Pastor Tullis's event coordinating team for the LompocMusicFestival.com. And it's very interesting that he started to talk about parks because specifically Thompson Park. I was part of the fundraising crew that fundraised for like 3 years to build the barbecue pit that's there. We want to continue in our fundraising events to place some plaques on the sides of the grill. I've been talking about this. I probably talked to Vic about it, probably talked to you, Mayor, and I'm sure I talked to that guy right there. I've never met him, but I'm sure he's a good guy. So I would like to have approval from Parks and Recreation and the city to start my fundraising, and if they would be willing to support that. And what it will actually end up being is just 3 plaques that has the names of the original fundraising team, some of Mr. Fuggs's family members, and then a picture of Mr. Fuggs on the side. And then I haven't figured out, somehow I'm gonna get your name on there, Dirk. Actually, you were very pivotal in helping us to do fundraising before. So anyway, just something, food for thought. I'll hit you up with that later. And also, we're talking about parks. I live in a neighborhood where we have a very, very small park. Wasn't even mentioned today. Doesn't really have a bathroom, but I'm talking about Fur Street Park. What are we gonna do with that? Can we make it into like a little kids park where toddlers and kids can go? Or, I'm just saying, it just needs some help. It's like 1 block from my house. It'd be nice to go out there and swing the little babies. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I know you're gonna think about that.
Yeah, you've given us food for thought. All right, seeing no one else rise and no one call in, we'll close oral communications and bring it back to the agenda. Next on our agenda is number 9, council appointment to the Beautification and Appearance Commission. We have 1 position available that is under Councilmember Ball, so District 4. It ends in December 2024, and we have 2 applicants. Kelsey Oliveira and Alyssa Imano. So, Councilmember Ball, what is your pleasure?
So first off, just want to say how fortunate and lucky I am to have 2 people willing to step up to serve in this role. Obviously, only 1 can do that, but I'm just excited to have some interest in this. For me, I would like to nominate Mrs. Alyssa Imano for that position on the Beautification Commission.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions? Seeing none, let's vote. And that passes 5-0. All right. Councilmember Starbuck.
City Clerk, do we have another opening on the Parks and Rec Commission?
I think Mario said yes.
Do we know whose it is? District 1?
It's Gilda's. So if you know somebody in District 1.
Well, I was just saying, maybe we could appoint somebody from District 4.
Well, I think they have to be interested and apply, and so, again, we can reach out to her and have a discussion. All right. Item number 10 is the introduction of Ordinance 1697, parentheses 22, repealing Section 10.52.130 of the Municipal Code in order to allow the riding of bicycles on city sidewalks. And we have our city attorney, Mr. Malave, to give the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Under the California Vehicle Code, It is up to individual cities and counties to decide whether bicycles are allowed on sidewalks in their city or county jurisdiction. And in Lompoc, we have section 10.52.130 of the municipal code that states that it is prohibited to ride bicycles on any sidewalk in the city. At the council meeting on July 19th, the council requested an agenda item to consider potentially amending or repealing that section of the code so that riding bicycles on sidewalks would be allowed. We brought this staff report back tonight for the council to consider that ordinance to repeal that section. In the staff report, it explains some of the input from a few city departments on this proposal. First, from Public Works. Essentially, Public Works had a concern that riding bicycles on the sidewalk can be dangerous, both for the person on the bicycle and for the pedestrians on the sidewalk, because sidewalks are not typically designed with bicycle riding in mind, and there can be low-hanging branches or signs or other obstructions that create a hazard for bicyclists. A note about e-bikes or electronic bicycles is that under state law, e-bikes are considered bicycles. So if the city repeals this prohibition, then we would be also allowing e-bikes or electronic bikes, electronically powered bicycles to travel on our sidewalks. If the council wanted to prevent that, we could say that e-bikes are prohibited, but regular bicycles are not prohibited, if you wanted to do that. From City Attorney's Office, I noted in the staff report that the city is liable for any accidents or injuries that occur to pedestrians or bicyclists that result from riding a bicycle on the sidewalk if it is caused by some defect or negligence on the city's part in maintaining the sidewalk. That is the case. City's liable for negligence if we're negligent. Whether or not we have a ordinance prohibiting bicycling on the sidewalk, so having the ordinance doesn't legally help us in court, but having the ordinance and enforcing the prohibition does logically result in fewer people riding bicycles on the sidewalk, which results in fewer injuries and therefore less likelihood that someone would get injured and sue the city for riding a bicycle on the sidewalk. Finally, from the police department, they did not recommend repealing the section because they find that that section is useful in law enforcement efforts, and we do not have a total recommendation from all of staff on this item, and we've left it up for the city council to decide whether you wanted to amend or repeal this ordinance. And that's the staff report. I'm available for questions.
Any questions for staff before we go to public comment? Councilmember Vega.
So Jeff, on the risk management side of everything, and I understand what side you're on, you're trying to minimize or eliminate risk, which is hard to do. The liability still exists. I've grown up in this city, and I just want you guys to know that our population has doubled, and if anybody has ever ridden a bike on H and Ocean, it's not safe on the street. We have the homeless, the helpless, we have everybody riding their bikes with cans and everything on there. So if you ever took a bike ride down that street, I think you would think that's a safety hazard also, you know? So we're looking out for the public, we're looking out for real people. I think that probably, I understand both sides of it. I think that H and Ocean is my main concern. We're looking at a streetscape project that's going to be years from now, but we're looking at somehow how to alleviate it from now. And you know, Lompoc is a commuter town, so one of the choices on this streetscape thing was to lower it to one lane, which isn't going to work in a commuter town where people are trying to get out of here, going to work, because so many people drive from north and south here. So Lompoc just unfortunately is a commuter town. So I think on the other side of it, I'd like to see some sort of versatility. It seems like if it's somebody else's idea, everybody's against it. But if we're really looking out for the safety of people and trying to promote cyclists, I think that would be a good alternative right now. And again, the elimination or the exclusion of e-bikes is probably makes sense, just pedal bikes. But I'm thinking more of the main thoroughfares, because the ordinance is old, it's unenforceable. And again, it's not safe riding on the street here, how many times have people had to veer off and avoid a bike? There's just no room. So I'm looking for a now solution, not a 10-year from now solution when they revamp and remodel the streets and look for funding and all this stuff. So I wanted to make that comment so everybody understands we're trying to make this city more user-friendly, but everybody always uses the risk management not to change unless it's their idea.
No, I think that is a valid point, and I think it's something for the council to weigh. If you feel that it's dangerous to ride bicycles on the street and that sidewalks are maybe a safer alternative, even though still dangerous.
Yeah, they're safer alternative, and
then that is something for the council to weigh.
Sorry about that. But, it seems like it holds a lot of other people more responsible. It makes the city also more responsible for their sidewalks. The tree trimmers, for the main thoroughfares, if we can at least do some sort of restriction so we are promoting bicyclists. Everybody's trying to promote green. Well, why don't we do it now? We're waiting for someone else to come up with a better plan someday while we all get old and die. So we don't want to do that. I'm tired of waiting. It seems like we all object when it's a staff recommendation that we not do anything, but when it's a staff recommendation that we do something, everybody jumps on board. This is real simple. It's real easy to turn it into an ordinance that we can actually make work right now. It doesn't mean like there's going to be a flood of bicycles on, but you ride on 8th Street again. If any one of you care to take a ride on 8th Street, go ahead. Between the buses and nowhere to ride, who's going to ride a bike? You're going to take chances. So I wanted to make that point, and thank you for the comment of things that we can maybe work around.
Councilmember Ball.
So I just wanted to kind of maybe ask a few questions about some of the things that we may not, how could this come back to bite us, so to speak? So when you mention, or it mentions in here that, that the city's liability goes up because there's cracks in the cement, somebody gets injured, we're liable for that. Before you answer this question, can someone remind me how many miles of streets do we have in Lompoc, give or take?
Approximately 133 miles.
So we have approximately 133 miles of streets in Lompoc. 85–90% of those streets have sidewalks on both sides. I go walking around my neighborhood, there's a tremendous amount of issues in the sidewalks. I'd love for people to be able to ride their bikes. Absolutely, I'd do it tomorrow. I'd love to see us have one lane and bike lanes and all this new progressive things. My concern is the liability issue for the city. So again, maybe you can flesh this out for me. If we change this, now the city's on the hook. Is there spots on sidewalks in the city that we're not liable? Or anywhere in the city of Lompoc, are we liable in a worst-case scenario?
We're liable if someone gets injured because of a defect in our sidewalk.
Does that include like tree roots, issues of the sidewalk separating, tripping?
Yeah, unevenness. Okay. If it's more than an inch uneven, or maybe like Councilmember Vega noted, was lack of maintaining tree branches. Maybe there's a tree branch that's hanging out across the sidewalk that creates a hazard. Those kinds of things, if we have this ordinance prohibiting riding on the sidewalk, then injuries are going to occur less often, theoretically. And so therefore we wouldn't get as many claims, wouldn't get as many injuries. That means less claims against the city for those injuries.
I appreciate that. I just, again, I'm not necessarily pro or against bikes or anything like that. I think it's great. We need as much of people maybe not getting in their cars as much as possible. We are a commuter town for sure, but we have a lot of upgrades that we haven't found the resources to pay for in our community, and that includes streets, obviously. But with our sidewalks, I again, in my district, just walking around to school, walking 4 blocks this way, and I mean, I could make a list of 15 or 20 issues on sidewalks that need to be fixed. Now, the issue is, well, how much does it cost to fix that little crack? How much does it cost to grind that piece of sidewalk down? How much does it cost to fix the sidewalk that's not up to the standard anymore because the driveway has the old, really harsh, you're going down the sidewalk and just fall off into someone's drive. There's a lot of issues there. So I understand what we're saying in a vacuum. Hey, let's just do this because then we'll have a few less injuries. If we're not careful, let's just make sure we're not opening up a whole can of worms that everybody on their bicycle can go and get hurt, and then it's on us. It's cities, it's your money, it's taxpayer dollars that have to pay for when we're sued. So again, I'm not saying it has to be one way or another, but this is something I think we should consider. 2 cents.
Councilmember Vega.
Councilmember Ball, I respect your opinion, but I don't want to use the fear factor of liabilities and all this, okay? We pay the attorneys to give us advice. You never can eliminate risk. There's always a liability. If you walk outside and you fall on your face, what do we do about it? What do we do? You know what I mean? Are you going to eliminate that? Are you going to blame somebody? Are you going to sue somebody? But we can walk outside. People are doing this all the time. That's why you have attorneys that make sure that, these people, most of the lawsuits that are canceled is because time limits and time frames and all this stuff, okay? You're not going to eliminate risk. Let's not use it as a scare tactic to not do anything when we're here to represent the public. The public wants to ride bikes. What are we going to do? Wait till we get all brand new sidewalks? What are we going to do that's going to be for the public? We're always fighting for everyone else and giving raises and doing everything else. What are we going to do so we can see, feel, smell, and feel the improvements here in the city? One of them is allow people little freedoms is what I'm talking about. So I'm just looking for a little bit of help on seeing if there's a way we can make something work here. The Caltrans right-of-ways, what are the reasons we go H and Ocean all the time? It's all Caltrans. We couldn't even do. So, Jeff, that's one thing maybe with Caltrans right-of-ways. I remember with Lompoc Theater, we couldn't even mess with the marquee up there because it was under a Caltrans right-of-way, okay? So that may be the answer there. It's not our risk, it's Caltrans, okay? That may be something on H and Ocean. So I don't know if you can reference that at all, Jeff, or not.
Well, certainly on our city streets, not H and Ocean, these risks come into play. If it's an injury that occurs on Caltrans right-of-way and it's a sidewalk that Caltrans has the responsibility to maintain, then yeah, that would be on Caltrans for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was just trying to make a point that we need to do something for the residents here. We're spending the money. Let's allow them some freedoms and make it work. City staff is in charge of maintaining the streets and sidewalks. If Caltrans relieves us of some of this liability, then, like I say, I'm more concerned with the right-of-ways so people can drive to work and back. I'm not trying to make every city street user-friendly. I understand your concerns, but I think that's the loophole right there. Instead of scaring them, let's make it work.
Councilmember Ball.
So I appreciate those comments, and there's nothing ultimately to argue about. I think for me, maybe there's 2 different schools of thought. The approach that I'm hearing from that side is, hey, let's create some freedom, let's get them up on the sidewalks, everyone will be happy. The people in Lompoc are not looking for us to tweak a rule to just let them ride on the sidewalk so they can ride their bike. They're looking for us to make long-term creative change, and part of that is really using our imagination, working with Caltrans, coming up with new ideas, and not just writing off the fact that we're a commuter town and we can't do anything to the 2 lanes, that's it. There are so many towns that I've been to that have obviously had major upgrades to the infrastructure of their streets within their downtown, within their main corridors. And time after time, they've been creative and slowed down traffic, allowed for pedestrians, allowed for bicycles, and they've done this in narrow streets in commuter towns too. So I just don't want to give up on us thinking bigger. And if our Band-Aid is just, hey, let them ride on the sidewalks, that's not thinking big enough for me. But I do hear where you're coming from, and I appreciate those comments.
All right, Councilmember Cordova.
City Attorney, I have a question. There are city streets that do have bike lanes, correct?
City streets that have bike lanes, yes.
So why is the consideration, just in general, to remove the code? And why not alter the code just for specific streets where we know we have a problem and the need for? Because if there's already a bike lane on certain streets, then why do we want to allow people to ride on sidewalks in those streets? You know what I mean? I just feel like this could be tighter, this could be better thought out.
Well, we don't have a recommendation. Staff is not,
Right.
doesn't have a recommendation. We're throwing this out to the council because it was a request for council to consider amendments to this code or repealing the code. So if that's something that you would like to do, then that is an option.
Yeah, but I just think that we could have considered that with all the other items that were considered here, but I understand. Also, under the liability considerations, if I'm reading this correctly, it says that under California law, cities owe a duty of care to people riding bikes on sidewalks, even if biking on sidewalks is prohibited. And it goes on to say, therefore, repealing the city's ban on sidewalks would not help or hurt the city's case in court.
That's right. We would be liable for people getting injured because of defects in our sidewalks or dangerous conditions of our sidewalks, whether we ban riding on the sidewalks or not. So the point here was, we're going to be liable if somebody gets injured, if it's due to our negligence. The way to reduce the number of injuries, if the council agrees, could be to leave the ban in place, and therefore fewer people are going to be biking on the sidewalk, and therefore fewer people will get those injuries.
If a cyclist, though, is on the street, not on the sidewalk, on the street, and there's a massive pothole, and it's a city street, and they happen to hit that, and, you know, God forbid, break a limb or bust their head, City of Lompoc still liable?
Yes. The consideration from council, though, is it, and this is up to you, yes, we're still liable for those potholes that could be in a bike lane on the street, but is it more dangerous to be riding your bike on the sidewalk? It's just something to weigh.
Councilmember Vega.
If I could, and I appreciate those comments, that's a great point. You know, there are bike lanes already written off, so we're looking at, and like I said, I'd like us to focus on the main thoroughfares, you know, because it is a Caltrans right away, and we're not going to reduce liability, and I'm not trying to change your streetscape plan, but that's years down the road. We have the ability and the opportunity to allow some freedoms here for bikes, and the city will have to be responsible to a point when their liability is here. As you say, the liability doesn't go away. But I think that would be an excellent point on the main thoroughfares. The other ones with bike lanes and everything, hey, they're already self-explanatory, and I thank you for that point, Gilda. So I think that with a little versatility, we can make something work till we can make Lompoc a little better. And again, you were saying it was a Band-Aid, Councilmember Ball, but it's not a Band-Aid. It's about when is this going to happen and what can we do now, but it doesn't deter us from the other plan, okay? All we're trying to do is make it a little bit better. When the plan comes, somebody's going to get together, whoever's on council, because it won't be right away, and they can go ahead and change the ordinance and figure it out. But for now, what can we do to allow these freedoms? And you know, I think all of us are in favor of more people biking and everything. You know, I'd love to ride a bike too, but I'll be darned if I'm going to be going on H and Ocean. Shoot, you'll get run over, and everybody knows that. Okay? There's just no room. You see, how many times have you driven on that inside lane and there's a bike there? You have to go into the other lane. So it's not fair. The bikes are at risk also. You know, unless they have rear view mirrors, I don't know who has the nerve to ride on those streets also, you know? But that's my point, okay? So with all due respect, thank you.
Councilmember Ball, and then we'll go to public comment. Oh, okay. And then we'll go to Councilmember Starbuck, and then public comment.
I'll be really quick about this. Look, I see people riding bicycles on the sidewalk all the time because they don't know they're not supposed to or supposed to. So I'm curious, if we did this and say we carved out H and Ocean, maybe that's our area. Would we notify cyclists that, please, we invite you to come up on our sidewalks? How would they know that that is the appropriate thing to do? And if that's what we would do, would we have to clear that through Caltrans to get additional signage saying, bicyclists, please come on the sidewalk?
If you wanted to have signs, then you could direct staff to apply to Caltrans to put up signs that say bicycling is allowed.
So I just say structurally, it's like I don't know how many people know or don't know to ride on the sidewalk. So again, it's like how do we get people to say, hey, if you're going to ride your bike, please do it on H and Ocean, just use the sidewalk. So I'm just curious if we're just going through the motions or.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Captain Martin, there's a very short blurb in here with public safety where it says, as this section is useful in law enforcement efforts. What's the tie-in with a bike on the sidewalk and police activities, please?
For the police department, the municipal code is just like the vehicle code or the penal code. So whatever you decide as a council is legal or illegal, we use that whichever means we need to. For us, back in the old days when I was on patrol, it was great probable cause to stop somebody maybe that was riding on a bicycle and it developed into something else. I've taken guns off of people who are riding bikes. I've taken lots of narcotics off of people who are riding bikes on a city street, on sidewalks, and streets for that matter. You know, for the police department, any bicycle on H and Ocean is dangerous. I don't argue that with you whatsoever. I wouldn't recommend it. For me, I think you go into another question that you have to ask yourself. When you put the bicycles on the sidewalk, who has the right of way, the pedestrian or the bicycle? That's something else I think you should consider when you're doing this, because they're both going to feel like they have the right of way, and at some point that's going to be another issue. So, and I think for us as the police department, we will see an increase in bicycle versus pedestrian on a city sidewalk. So, but you tell us what you want, and we're going to enforce it. So there are a lot of things that are a benefit to many of the municipal codes that you pass, and for bicycles on sidewalks, because it is illegal, we use that as probable cause where we maybe didn't have something, it develops into something bigger for us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Cordova.
So we keep referring to this, to H and Ocean on this, but this would apply to all streets, correct, City Attorney?
The prohibition on riding bicycles on the sidewalk applies to all sidewalks, yes.
Yeah. And then I'm always baffled, I guess, when we're discussing something that is Lompoc Municipal Code that we don't already enforce, but we want to change to something else that we probably couldn't enforce. I don't know if that makes sense. When was the last time we gave somebody a ticket for riding their bike on a city street? I mean, or are we saying we typically overlook that because, maybe that's not the hot priority, or there's other matters that take into priority currently right now. So I think that changing something that is already kind of, I hate to say the word even status quo, but to move it into something that would be a little more hectic on our city sidewalks is concerning for me.
Okay. Let's go to public comment. And then once we have public comment, I'll provide my 2 cents. Floor is now open. If you would like to come to the podium on item number 10, you're welcome to. If you'd like to call in, the number to call is 805-875-8201. You have 3 minutes.
Carl Jones, been up here before. I oppose allowing bikes on sidewalks. Your sidewalk's 5 foot. A bicycle handlebar is between 22 and 30 inches wide. You can't put 2 bicycles going in opposite directions on a on a sidewalk. Also, my wife walks around. That's all she can do. She's legally blind. I see other people that are blind and this stuff and the other. that. But if you do the math, 125-pound person on a bicycle going 25 mile an hour, that's 3,100 pounds per square inch hitting. I don't want to see somebody hit my wife with that amount of weight. Okay? If you say they can ride bicycles on the sidewalks and the bicyclist hits my wife, who's at fault? The bicyclist, the city for allowing it? I'm sorry, but I've been around this city too with these bicyclists, and a lot of them think they own the road. Even when they're on the regular road, they'll take on a car. Now I got to worry about them shooting off the sidewalk behind all the parked cars on the side of the road when they should be in the road, abiding by the laws. And everybody knows when you take a bicycle class like we did in school, they said you abide by the laws of the road. They don't do it now. But now they're going to be shooting out of sidewalks. Sorry, I got an 8,000-pound truck. Whoever's on a bicycle loses. If I don't see him come from behind that parked car, because you know how the streets are in Lompoc, we got cars everywhere. I mean, and these guys don't slow down for any stoplights as is, stop signs, and now you're going to allow them to be on the sidewalk shooting out from behind them cars. At least when they're in the street, I can see them, you know. But you also have to look at the infrastructure. A bicycle handlebar, the medium size is 22 inches wide. The larger ones are 30 inches wide, okay? You're putting that on a 60-inch sidewalk. They don't have enough room to go by each other. You don't even have enough room for a grown man to walk down the street and have a bicycle pass him on the sidewalks. And your average 10-speed bicycle with the average person is 25, 28 mile an hour. They don't need to be on a sidewalk. They need to be out in the street. That's where they belong. They go with the flow of traffic, and they abide by the traffic laws. That's what I was taught when I was a kid when we had the bicycle classes. And most places that give bicycle classes, they tell them that. That's all part of what you learn when you take and learn how to ride a bike. Now you say put them on the street or on the sidewalk. I say no. Thank you.
I'm Aaron Webster. I'm a bicyclist. Keep the bicycles on the street and not on the sidewalks. If you want to go not up H or Ocean, you can go on side streets to get to where you go to work or where you want to ride, and you'll be perfectly fine. I've ridden tens of thousands of miles here in the community over the 50 years 50 plus years I've lived here. For 11 and a half years, I rode out to the village. You can do it safely if you know how to ride a bicycle, watch the automobiles. There are a number of streets now that are not fit for automobiles to be on in our city, let alone bicycles. And we could use that money from signs that say bikes and ride the sidewalks to help repair the streets. But again, as a bicyclist, sidewalks are pedestrians, vehicles that be in the streets. You have tricycles on the sidewalk, you can have scooters on the sidewalks, roller skates on the sidewalks, but not vehicles on the sidewalks. Thank you.
My name's Kimberly Coy, longtime resident, like lifetime. H and Ocean, I've always, when I used to ride a bike, I haven't in a while, but we always rode sidewalks. I was scared to ride in the street because the cars will hit you there. I'm not for or against sidewalk riding. I was at Baskin Robbins yesterday, and we went and sat on the brick wall, and I almost got ran over by a bicycle riding on the sidewalk. You really can't ride in the street, especially on H Street. There's no room. So I don't know what the solution is, if it's somehow make the street wider and a bike lane down the road, but I'm a little bit behind going ahead and letting them ride on the sidewalk on H Street. And maybe making it just H and Ocean and nowhere else. The rest can be banned. But I would not ride my bicycle on H Street in the street. Thanks.
Thank you.
Deb Andrews, Lompoc. I support allowing bicycles on sidewalks. You cannot argue against being more safe. The gentleman that talked about the width of the handlebars and the bicycle and the sidewalk is a good argument, but it applies to the streets as well. Where does that 26 inches go on H Street or Ocean? H Street and Ocean are major highways. They're busy all the time, and people speed on both streets. Electric cars are silent. If you're riding your bicycle down the street, you wouldn't even hear them coming up behind you. I think of young people, youth. I think the sidewalks are much safer for youth. Hardcore riders probably aren't going to ride on the sidewalk. They're probably going to ride on the street because they don't want the up and down all the time. E-bikes are not bicycles, they're more like motorcycles. I think that's important and they should be banned. I know personally individuals, 3 individuals, 2 were made quadriplegic and 1 was killed by cars. They were riding their bicycles, so this really hits me close to my heart. I think it should be allowed. I think it's another freedom for citizens, and some streets in Lompoc are very dangerous for bicycles.
Did we have any written communication?
Yes, ma'am. There was an email received from Mr. Ron Fink. It was delivered to all of council. It was provided to the public out in front in the lobby and is on the website.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to close public comment on it, and then my 2 cents as an actual cyclist. So I think this conversation came up as a result of us discussing the multimodal plan and the fact that H&Ocean isn't easily ridden by any cyclist, whether it's a tourist or it's a local, and a lot of the services are on H&Ocean. And at the time, we hadn't approved the plan. We had just approved the plan, but we hadn't heard back from Caltrans that we were going to be awarded $4.9 million. And if I understand the message correctly from staff, the $4.9 million is potentially to do a study about converting H&Ocean sidewalks into a shared use between bicycles and sidewalks. And that is happening quite quickly, otherwise they wouldn't have issued the $4.9 million and assigned someone to the project from Caltrans, and the fact that the 4.9 is for construction as well. So I want to compliment Councilmember Vega first for wanting to be really proactive. I think we're on that way. And so I don't know that we need to change the rule yet. It sounds like we need to let Caltrans do their study and come back with a recommendation. And then from that, they would recommend how we create that shared use of that sidewalk being both a bicycle path and a walking path, and what the signage would look like, and with the intent to, again, that 4.9 million includes for construction, being able to implement it. So I think the better step forward is to let staff work with Caltrans and provide us some feedback as to if that's what's beginning to happen and what that funding is for. Again, just got the notification last week, haven't gotten absolute clarity as to which project it's moving forward, but that is where I believe it's going from the short conversation I had. So I think that we are rushing to try and accommodate something we all think should happen, but now that it's potentially happening, I think we should allow Caltrans and staff a chance to finish doing that study and coming back to us and giving us a timeline, and when they're ready for us to make the change for H&Ocean, and we know what the rules are, and we know what the signage will be, and when it will be implemented, then we can make that change. I think there's a lot of concern about rushing forward to change H&Ocean sidewalks right now without clear signage, clear delineation, and clear understanding, and a partnership with Caltrans. And the last thing I want to do is ruin our relationship that is positive with Caltrans right now, and we got 4.9 million to potentially solve this problem. So again, I want to compliment Councilmember Vega for being proactive on it. I think we need to take a step back for a moment and let this move forward through the partnership with the recent grant. Councilmember Cordova.
So is that a motion?
It would be mine. I just want to make sure that everybody's had a chance to give their 2 cents after hearing public comment. And
Yeah, I too can appreciate the sentiment behind the consideration. However, unfortunately, as much as we may want to fix something, it really doesn't make sense to throw bicyclists on the sidewalks and make it more chaotic, in my opinion. I see more and more, and again, we keep referring to H and Ocean. I see way more people on sidewalks on H and Ocean now. I see packs of people sometimes, like families, strollers, and so this really made me nervous because I really wanted to understand where everybody was coming from on this. I don't think we have a proper solution, as Mayor Osborne said, and until we do, and if, again, we keep talking about H and Ocean, then let's let Caltrans do their job. I think they understand that they have an issue on H and Ocean, and they are moving towards a fix. So I'm hopeful that we'll see that come very quickly, and if we can get an update from staff as soon as they know, that will help, I think, put ease to what Councilmember Vega is trying to do here in making just making it safe for everyone. So if that's a motion, I would second it. If it's not, I would make it a motion.
okay. Councilmember Vega.
I can appreciate everybody's thoughts on this, and part of the streetscape plan that we had before was making sidewalks a little wider, maybe having a bike path on them or something, because that's what they do in the beach communities. You know, if you have enough room, you know, we had a public comment person mention about they're not wide enough. I understand that. But the bike ordinance, I think it's not enforceable, and it's not enforced right now. So when people do go up on the sidewalk because of a safety issue, okay, on H and Ocean, and it happens, guys, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to make it clear here that you really can't give anybody a ticket if they're fear for their own safety, you know, during busy times or whatever. So that's kind of the point I'm trying to make to the police, to the public safety. I know nobody likes to say, well, we're not going to enforce it. Well, they're not going to. Nobody's going to enforce that. So when somebody does go on the sidewalk, I'm not saying, as you mentioned, have an invitation to ride on the sidewalk. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? I get that. But what I'm saying is when we see people riding on this side, let's tag it up for it's for their own safety. Let's not make it a violation because they fear for their safety on H and Ocean or wherever it is, okay? That's my point. So I'll let you guys go with the message. And then Mayor, I think you understand where we're going with this. We're trying to put the people first here.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand with cars, it's unequal, the weight, a car versus a bike, so you can't throw that there. You know there's no bike lanes on H and Ocean. Everybody's wondering why H and Ocean. There's no bike lanes. You guys go ride a bike on there during rush hour and see how you feel.
Oh, I have. So I understand. So
wear the shoes.
So I think we're all arguing for the right thing. And so my motion stands as I think we need to take a step back and not make a decision tonight, that we allow staff to work with the newly granted funds from Caltrans about what that solution looks like, what that timeline is, and then when the time's appropriate, because they've got a proposal and it requires us to change our ordinance in reflection of H and Ocean now, sidewalks now potentially being a shared use lane, and what that delineation looks like and where the signage would go, that would be the appropriate time for us to make that change, because we will need to make it. But I don't think rushing it right now and potentially creating more issues that PD may or may not be able to enforce. Again, if they see something happening that is dangerous to the rider or to traffic, they absolutely will stop and talk to the cyclist. I have seen that happen. And we just need to ask our cycling community to take all precautions possible. And if H and Ocean is something you are comfortable riding on, then we need to ask also our driving community to be respectful of that and just slow down when you're around those cyclists. And if it's something that getting up onto the sidewalk for a short amount of time means you get through town safer because you are trying to get to the grocery stores or to one of the stores that's on H and Ocean, because all our services are on predominantly H and Ocean, then we do it with respect. But I think the plans are in the work, and so I just think we take a step back and to, again, Councilmember Vega's point, this is absolutely moving forward, and I just think we need to work with Caltrans on this and give them a chance to utilize the funding and the staff that they've put assigned to this. So if Councilmember Cordova still seconds that, that'd be great.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Starbuck.
Just a question, when is this Caltrans supposed to take place?
Well, we got assigned a project manager, and we have to go and show them our priorities, so it could take a little while, but it's not going to be like 10, 15 years. It's something that's in the works that we're going to be working on right away. I was pretty impressed with how quickly they acted on it.
So, I mean, I'm leaning to let Caltrans kind of work on it, but H-Notion, but, I remember when I would come to town as a young kid, don't play in the street, don't ride your bike in the street, and, now we're kind of reversing all that. I mean, this is a common sense call. I'm probably going to go along with the motion here, but I don't feel comfortable waiting on Caltrans and this whole thing. I've seen the speed of molasses here with it, so a year at least, probably.
Like I said, they did assign a project manager to us, so they seem like they're serious, so.
Well, in 6 months, we'll ask where's the project at and what's going on with it. And at every SBCAG meeting, I will ask Caltrans, where's our $4.9 million project? How's that? I can be a nag when it's needed politically. I didn't say at home. He wouldn't appreciate that. All right, motion and a second. Any clarity needed other than we're going to postpone this? Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, let's vote. And that passes 5-0. And again, thank you, Councilmember Vega. I appreciate you trying to be proactive. Item number 11, City Council consideration of revisions to the policy regarding anonymous code enforcement complaints and public disclosure of the names of persons making code enforcement complaints. And we have our City Attorney, Mr. Malave, again.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. City Council has a policy in code enforcement to require a complaint form with the complainant's name and contact information in order for staff to investigate and act on any code enforcement complaint. That does not apply in emergency circumstances where there is an immediate threat to public health, safety, and welfare. We will respond immediately to those complaints, whether a form or a website submission is filed or not. Prior to August of 2019, the city's policy was that if we get a public records request for the name of a person that submitted a code enforcement complaint, we would keep that name confidential and keep their contact information confidential. And the reasoning for that was we wanted to prevent any retaliation that might occur against the person that filed the complaint, and to avoid making the public fearful of reporting code violations that they might be retaliated against if the violator or alleged violator found out that they were the ones that made the complaint. So we kept the names of the complainants confidential if we got a public records request for it. On August 20th, 2019, the City Council amended that policy and decided that it would be the city's new policy to have a two-tier system for releasing the name of the people that file complaints. If it was a code enforcement violation that was a lower level code violation that was not serious or severe, didn't cause a serious or severe immediate threat to public health and safety, then if we got a public records request for that lower level, the name of the person who reported the lower level complaint, we would release that name to the person that made the Public Records Act request. We would still keep the contact information confidential. But if we got a Public Records Act request for the name of a person that made a complaint about a serious or severe violation or an immediate threat to public health or safety, then we would, the council said, to continue to keep those complainant names confidential and to not release those. And the kind of handout that summarizes the new two-tier policy is attached to the staff report with a list of the kind of lower-level violations where the complainant's name would be disclosed, and then a list of the kind of serious violations where the complainant's name would not be disclosed. It's been about 3 years since that new two-tier policy was adopted, and there have been a few instances where the city released the names of code enforcement complainants for lower-level violations. We're not aware of any cases or instances where disclosing those names resulted in any retaliation or harassment of the person that made the complaint. So the reason for the agenda item tonight is because we got a council request to potentially amend the policy to in any way you like, but I think the request was to make it go back to how it was before August 20th, 2019. The city is can have a policy either way. We can release the names for all code enforcement complainants if that's what you decide that's what the city's policy should be, or we could keep confidential the names of all code enforcement complainants if the council decides that's what the policy should be, or something in between, like the two-tier policy we have now. So that concludes the staff report on this item. It is up to the council's pleasure how you would want to amend the policy, if at all, tonight. So I am available for questions.
Councilmember Starbott.
Jeff, you probably aren't the one to answer these questions, but when this was instituted about doing away with anonymous, there was a huge amount of anonymous code enforcement complaints put into the city. It was almost like we had little junior code enforcement officers all over town. We're talking several hundred of them. A lot of them were probably put in by the same person or whatever. When people know, I hate the accuser, so to speak, then there's a reluctance on the person filing the complaint. How much change was there between when it was totally anonymous to where it became you had to sign the complaint form? I remember there was a pretty severe drop all of a sudden in code complaints. It became more of a legitimate code complaint rather than the attack on certain neighbor and all of that. Hence why later on this code enforcement complaint also went to lower level violations, name, serious. It allowed people to go ahead and report and not worry about retaliation because these were serious complaints. But my neighbors got weeds, call it up. Now I had to sign the form. Now I'm a little reluctant to tell on my neighbor. Do we have any of the numbers on how this changed the enforcement and the costs that we involved in investigating all the code complaints?
Well, you're right that I am not the person to answer that because that policy was changed prior to 2017. So I don't know if any staff would be able to comment on that either.
I could speak a little to that. Our code enforcement complaint form right now does not require a signature. So you complete the form online. I think the challenge that probably we foresee would be there could be frivolous complaints submitted on the online portal utilizing staff time of having to go out and see if there is truly a violation. But at the end of the day, when there are more complaints submitted, if they are truly violations, then it doesn't matter. It's a violation. If there's one person out there deciding to be a code enforcement officer on their side job and not paid by the city, and they're just filling out our citizen concern form, if it's a violation, it's a violation. If we go out and there are cars parked on the lawn, or if there are broken windows, or if there is unpermitted construction going on, then we should know about it. So yes, at this point in time, people do not sign the form. I do get submissions that are from Mickey Mouse or Joe Schmo or whatever. They put whatever they want.
Them for our new code enforcement people.
Right.
No,
But
you
yeah.
know, you follow what I'm
Mhm.
saying? The amount of code complaints there for a period of time was very expensive. And it took a ton of staff time, hence why being anonymous was done away with, you know? I mean, let's see if it's the same person. So obviously Mickey Mouse was filing a lot of complaints, you know? I'm almost to the point with this where I'd say, let's just leave it alone. It appears to be working. And now we couldn't get a neighborhood enforcement officer, but we're going to be able to hire a code enforcement officer. I think maybe we should let him get in, put the spurs on, and find out what's going on, and then revisit if he's got a problem with it.
Councilmember Ball.
Oh, man, so much to say. I think at the bigger picture level, this should be a discussion on, are we worried about a tattletale system, or are we worried about cleaning up our town? Prior councils made decision to remove the anonymous process for code enforcement so that if, say, Mrs. Jones lives 3 doors down from a 6'5" really angry man who parks 17 trucks in his front yard, hasn't mowed anything, doesn't care. This council at one time thought it was a great idea to say, you know what, that man that's breaking all of the code needs to know who told on him. And that's how we make this town a little bit better. That's ridiculous. How do we do this? I'm not going to ask the police captain to come up here because I know what he would say. But the police department has an app and they have a process. And they encourage the community that if you would like to report something, if you see something, you can do so anonymously. Now, if it's better to remove the anonymous element of that, how would that work out? Well, if we did that at the police station and said, hey, if you call and report something, we might tell the person that you're calling on that it was you. How would that work out? Of course the complaints would go way down because no one would be interested in having to deal with this harassment or potential harassment. And of course the city wouldn't know about any sort of harassment because the people are scared to death to even complain in the first place. So if we're going to measure data, let's talk seriously about this. This is a question for the city manager. You place it in the staff report. It's the California Court of Appeals and the City of San Jose versus the Superior Court. And this is what they noted. On the basis of human experience, it is likely that public disclosure of complainants' names, addresses, and telephone numbers will have a chilling effect on the number of complaints made. Public disclosure will subject the complainants to the loss of confidentiality about their complaints and also to direct contact by the media and by persons who wish to discourage complaints. It also may be presumed that a reduction in complaints will impede the city in its ability to comply with its code enforcement duties. I'm going to read the last sentence again and then ask you to clarify. It also may be presumed that a reduction in complaints will impede the city in its ability to comply with its code enforcement duties. Can you explain that last sentence to me from your perspective?
Yes, it just means that if there is a reduction in complaints, then the city finds it harder to enforce violations of the code that may be existing around town because we don't know about them if people do not complain.
Thank you for that. I would just like to submit to everyone at council or anyone listening that we've had a 6-year experiment with this. The proof's in the pudding. Does your town look better today in terms of code enforcement? People parking their trucks, cars in their lawn, people letting their weeds grow, people doing all of these things. Let's look at this here. These are the things that they want to disclose your name. So if you called about weeds and landscaping, accumulation of junk, trash, and debris, fence violations, inoperable vehicles, building or zoning code violations, noise violations, if there's a noise violation, this council at one time wanted to go tell on you that you were the one complaining about your neighbor playing their music too loud. That's not a system that helps us go in the right direction, that lets people get away with stuff that other towns figure out how to do a better job. Now, code enforcement's another issue. We've got to hire a position, or we've got to work internally, or we've got to stand up different people from within, and that's another discussion. This is just about the anonymous complaint system. And I hope that I've just illustrated that if it works for the police department to encourage people to report something in an anonymous way, then explain to me why it's so different for code enforcement. Thank you.
Any more questions for staff before we go to public comment? Councilmember Vega?
Christy, you made a comment about currently the form doesn't have a signature, even though if we went to anonymous, it wouldn't go anywhere. Do you have any suggestions on, how to legitimize at least the complaints to know it's not someone just playing with you guys? You know what I'm saying? Because, yeah, if there is a complaint, like you said, if it's valid, but what are there wild goose chases? How do you keep yourself so you can prioritize? Because I can tell you that if you keep sending people to little frivolous things, right, and you're responding to that, you're going to be wasting their time, okay, when they have bigger fish to fry, if it's just a neighbor that doesn't like each other. Do you have any suggestions on maybe a signature on the form, or maybe an address and it doesn't go anywhere or something for you guys, okay, just to make sure it's a time management issue. To say that you can just take complaints from anybody if it's legitimate is not wise for time management.
So we would have to start with having a code enforcement officer that
yeah.
actually goes out.
No, I got
So
you.
currently, the way we handle it is myself, the city manager, one of my staff, if it's planning, building, solid waste, depending what category, police dispatch, depending on the type of complaint. Typically, complainants will attach a photo or a video clip to the actual complaint form. They put their address, their email, their phone number. They want to hear back. So even if they don't disclose their name, they usually have contact information because they want to know what happened, what did we do.
Yeah.
And so if we go out, and in fact it is, and I have to say, I haven't come across any that are truly not valid. I haven't gone out and not seen what they sent me a picture of. So we don't get invalid complaints. We get people that are frustrated and concerned and want things fixed.
Well,
And I think we would get more complaints if people were not afraid of putting their name on there.
Yeah,
Because they can't right now. It says on the form that, it says on there, this is not confidential. So if they went to that form and they said, I'm going to tattle, I got one today, tattling on my neighbor, came into my yard with a pit bull, vicious pit bull, and took stuff out of my yard. And he probably wouldn't have put that one in there if he thought, he had to think long and hard about what am I going to put in here that's identifying factors that my neighbor's going to know it was me, and the neighbor is going to know. So I'm assuming people get so frustrated, they just do this. So I don't think we need to change our form. I think.
So again, I'm on your side as far as time management, but I don't buy that every complaint that you're going to answer is you're going to waste your time without having some sort of legitimacy to that form, even if it was anonymous, okay? And I'm saying, hey, there should be something there for you guys, okay? Because one of the complaints that was before was the cost of code enforcement because there were people abusing the anonymous part. There was some things, there were people, you get these frivolous complaints. There's mud on my sidewalk, it's the neighbor's mud, I'm gonna trip on it, okay? You know what I'm saying though? It's kind of like there were some things you get to filter out that are actually a neighbor to neighbor not liking each other. Not that you got to go over there and be a mediator or be some sort of a life counselor, There should be something.
Well, we're not staffed at that level. Even when we had a code enforcement officer on staff, we did not go out on those. We took the ones that were high life safety hazards. We have to manage our workload that way already. So it's not the form that does it, it's humans that do it. We make sure that's done.
But with a city like this, okay, once you guys do get fully staffed, it's not going to be hard to find complaints, okay? So it's not like you need to be helped, okay, with all these complaints, and you're going to be the pizza delivery every time somebody calls. I can tell you can just drive up every street or whatever you want to do, and the person will have his job pretty full, his hands full, so anyway. just trying to make sure you guys aren't abused. I don't like the Mickey Mouse thing and all this stuff, to be honest with you, okay? If somebody called me and I was Mickey Mouse, I'd probably turn the TV off, you know? Thank you.
Councilmember Wall.
So I just had a clarifying question about Mickey Mouse, because I'm hearing two different things here. So I heard from you, you said all the complaints you've gotten, you haven't gotten any frivolous complaints. So what I'm led to believe that somebody might have said, hey, I'm Mickey Mouse, because I don't want you to know that so-and-so is doing something. Is that fair?
Yeah, it was a valid complaint.
So it is somebody acting inappropriately as Mickey Mouse could have reported a legitimate code violation here.
Someone didn't want whomever they were complaining against to know who they were.
Thank you so much.
Any more questions for staff before we go to public comment? All right, seeing none, we will open the floor to public comment. You have 3 minutes if you would like to come to the podium or call in. The number is 805-875-8201. Were there any written communications on this item?
Yes, ma'am. There was an email received from Mr. Ron Fink. It was delivered to all of council. It has been placed on the website, and it was placed outside in the lobby for the public.
Thank you. Trying to give those watching a chance or listening a chance to call in case they would like to on this matter. All right, seeing no one call in and no one rise, we'll bring it back to the council. And I brought this forward because the number of emails I get on a regular basis with pictures and complaints attached asking me to file, and when I turn around and send them the link, they turn around and say, I would if I didn't have to put my name to this. So can you please tackle this? And this isn't the unsafe buildings or the dangerous housing. So I don't have a problem with us requiring the name for our internal documentation so that if it goes to court, we can call the person and ask if they're willing to be a witness, or we can identify that it's 10 people living in the same apartment complex that are running into the same issues of certain violations that aren't public health and safety but are a landlord issue, and they need to be protected from their landlord, but we need to assist, or we need it for documentation for a court case moving forward and being able to say we received 10 complaints on the same issue and they were all valid compared to the one that was willing to put their name to it. So it isn't about collecting a name for staff to be able to follow up with and manage the case with. It's about people feeling comfortable to file a complaint when they feel that there is a violation going on and that the appropriate people to deal with it is the city because of the way our municipal code, property codes, all of that are written. And so the fact that they're choosing Mickey Mouse just tells us that the system isn't working. And it means that Mickey Mouse might have had 4 other neighbors that also were uncomfortable, but went to that form and decided, I don't need to deal with it. So we haven't heard if there's any harassment because they're not even reporting because they're afraid of that harassment. So what I'm asking for is that we go back to an anonymous system that means you cannot ask at any level who the individual that you feel has violated you by complaining about you. Pull that out. But leave the request for a name and address for staff to access if they'd like to call you, to participate in follow-up, let you know what's happened, ask if it's ongoing, notice that you've complained several times. So again, this is about making it anonymous to those that are being complained against, again, but leaving the request for staff to know who it is. That is simply all I'm asking for, because the number of responses I get regarding the number of emails I get, they're saying, will you please fill this out then? Will you please take it to staff? And I'm happy to pass it on, but that doesn't elevate it. It's not the mayor or the council member's responsibility to chase this down. It should be available to every citizen, and every citizen should be comfortable filing a complaint about a known issue and it being treated with respect, and this doesn't treat everyone with respect. So that's why I'm asking to go back to an anonymous system, not available to those that were complained against, and staff being able to collect the name internally on the application but not reveal it to those being complained against. Councilmember Cordova.
So this to me is not about, tattletelling. This is something so much more than that for me. It's so much more important because this is community order. This is quality of life issues for me. This is community pride issues for me. I was on the tail end of this hot topic a few years ago. I've seen this topic be manipulated. I say manipulated because we were led to believe, or we were told by prior council, or specifically a prior council member, that to change the existing method at that time, being the anonymous, and go public, was the right thing to do, and that, this would help the system in such a way. I was against it at that time. I believe it was also intended to be an intimidation method for anybody wanting to speak out. Along with that, we were also told that we absolutely did not need code enforcement by the same council or council member. And as council member Ball just pointed out, how did this really help our community? How did this make us any better? Lompoc streets do not look better today when council decided to remove stipulations and to remove the order and the proper tools that staff had to be able to effectively do their job. At one point in time, and maybe still so, we had city managers going out and having to do code enforcement. How does that work my money better as a community resident, that I have to have my city manager go out doing code enforcement because somebody up here thought it was a good idea to remove a link in the chain that was so essential to the daily operations of this mechanism? I would agree that we need to put this back the way it was in an effort to allow people the privacy and, I guess, the comfort to say, I'm not comfortable with that, and I want to be able to tell someone, but I don't want to be up against my neighbor. I don't want to have retaliation. I think this is essential.
Councilmember Vega.
Mayor, I have to concur with what you proposed there. All I was asking for staff to legitimize the complaint internally. The anonymous part of it, I understand that, but I just didn't want them, and I understand why the Mickey Mouse thing now, I get it. Somebody didn't want to put their name down, I get it, but that's why my comment was I wouldn't be chasing Mickey Mouse names. If you legitimize it internally, then it's okay, so that you're not just spinning your wheels and it's a time management issue, If somebody is, so I just want to let you know, I concur.
So is that a second to my motion?
Was that a second? Yes, that's a second.
All right.
Man, that was quick, boy. That was quick. I didn't realize I was going to get into that one, boy.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Well, just so we don't have the flat spot on the wheel here, my money would be on Mrs. Jones over the 6'5" guy. But I tell you what I think would be real key here is, I don't know whose department would take it. I imagine it would be you, Christy. But if the spike occurs again in the anonymous code enforcement, because I don't think anybody sitting on this dais realizes how much money was spent, staff time, and the trivialness of what was going on that forced this to happen. Yeah, it's all great now, but then it wasn't. It was expensive and very vengeful. So if we start to see all of a sudden, what was happening before, I think it'd be very imperative that we bring it up and catch it early. How many typical code complaints do we get filed a month now?
I have the numbers from last year. There was 587 last year.
So a little over one a day.
Yeah.
And
there are times, I think PD can attest to this, that they have the same situation. Firework time, there are sometimes more. There's different things going on in the community where there's more.
Sure.
The intent is to come back to you guys once we hire a senior code enforcement officer, so we can establish some priority items that perhaps we want tackled in the community as far as the type of complaints that come in. with one code enforcement officer in a city of this size, you're not going to touch every single thing.
No, absolutely.
So-
But I can understand 500 complaints. That's a reasonable number, but we were talking about a couple of thousand at this point. It was, like I say, there was a little junior code enforcement officer running all over town, many a day, et cetera. So this is something I think that if you could watch, monitor, and if we start seeing this type of citizen behavior again, let's bring it up. Thank you.
Of course.
Councilmember Cordova and then Vega.
So I get what we're saying, but I have to disagree because I don't think that we can measure the number of complaints and make the decision that if we get too many complaints, we're just going to remove a system or we're going to remove a process. I don't care if we get 3,000 complaints a year. At the end of the day, it is our job as a city to have the personnel to be able to go out there and pursue whether those are legitimate or not legitimate and maintain the quality of life and the order on our streets and in our neighborhoods. So I will never be for the idea that if we get too many complaints, we're going to need to shut this down. Absolutely not. It is our job to answer every complaint and every request that comes in from the residents of this community.
Councilmember Vega.
Just for clarity, since I seconded a motion,
Yes.
that was going to be to
Go back to
legitimize she said the form wasn't currently like that, so we're asking for that change to be. Otherwise, if somebody right now, after we change it to anonymous, signs Mickey Mouse, I would consider that not a valid complaint.
I think you still have to treat it as a valid complaint, but what we're saying is that we're not going to reveal to the individual complained against
Oh, I
who
got you.
complained,
I got
and
you.
internally we will accept it. And even if somebody chooses to put Mickey Mouse, because it's a complaint, we have to at least consider it and validate it, because as she has said, you may still get a complaint because they're uncomfortable potentially with a staff member knowing who they are. And so you have to treat every complaint, as Councilmember Cordova says, you have to get to a point where we can not just treat every complaint as if it's serious, but respond to them all. And that'll take us a while to get to the staff to do that, but we have to know the reality, and without a system that gives us the true numbers, gives us the reality, it's difficult to monitor that. And when we get a code enforcement officer, I am very
I got you.
positive we will get one. This will be a tool they can then evaluate and come back to us and say, I'm getting to X, Y, and Z of your priorities, but what's falling through the cracks are these things, and it would be beneficial to have an additional person. And so it also helps us justify in the future what the staffing looks like. So ultimately, the request is we go back to an 100% anonymous filing, no transparency back to those complained against, and a request to provide staff with contact
Gotcha.
internally.
So are you okay with having them modify the form so that if somebody wants to sign that and wants to put an address, you're not going to hold them to the fire, I guess? I think
Well,
we should
we only have an
that.
online file right now, so
Yeah, but
it's
it doesn't,
not,
it
yeah.
doesn't say it requires a signature or anything,
No,
okay?
it doesn't. It requests it.
So, does it request it?
It's yes.
I feel like I'm running around the bush here. All I want to know is that
So
we're
I
going to
have,
legitimize
I have
it.
shared the link often enough and read it before I've sent it out, that it's not required in order to submit. It is requested, but at the top, it does state that it will be released if it doesn't meet public health and safety. If requested, it will be released to the complainant. So that's the preventative.
So as long as it's anonymous, I mean, for that, okay.
And if that's removed, that statement's removed, most people will put their information knowing, because you can put an asterisk that says this information will remain internal and is kept anonymous.
I feel like I just bought some ice cream and I wanted a popsicle. You get what I'm saying? I think I understand you,
Okay,
but I just want to make sure the line was there so they could do it, okay?
Yes.
That's all I really wanted to know,
Okay.
in all seriousness.
all right, no, as long as I will buy you both, how's that?
Okay, all right.
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha, yeah.
So you keep using the word anonymous, but that's not what you mean, right? You mean that then the name of the person who makes the complaint, who files the complaint, that is not public information.
Yes.
That's what you mean.
That's what I mean by anonymous.
Okay, so it's that's not the word, correct?
My city
So-
attorney.
So the name is still required in order to submit a complaint. It's just that the name would not be released if we get a public records request.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
That's, yes.
But
And
you
that's
just said all complaints will be accepted.
because they could choose to put Mickey Mouse in. Right? I mean, we're not going back and calling and verifying unless we call that person and say, we went and looked and it wasn't there. Are you sure you have the right address? So again, you can put a name as required if staff believes if my attorney believes that's the right way to go.
Well, that's what the policy is right now, is that a name is required, is this from the last council direction. A name is required, contact information is required. The question is just, do we release it? Release the name when we get a request.
I just don't want the information released.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense.
That
I
makes
mean,
perfect sense. That's what I was trying to say, is that
Yeah.
collecting
I was
the
gonna
information-
add,
I'm okay with that.
for me, trying to contact the person, and if it was just no contact information in there, that would make it really challenging.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes there is dialogue that happens.
Yeah, so I'm fine with requiring collecting the information. The purpose of my anonymous statement is no public record.
So again, not anonymous.
Not
That's not the
anonymous.
word you're looking for. You're looking for us not to release the name of somebody who files a complaint for code enforcement.
Yes.
Unless there is some sort of reason for a court order.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm looking for. That's my request.
Wow.
You
Thanks for
okay?
the ice cream. I appreciate it.
You got your ice cream? Awesome, okay. Which isn't in Lompoc, so their report would just be from a tourist. Anything else for clarity? Okay. All right. Any more questions or clarity from the council to make sure? Okay. Seeing none, let's vote. And that passes 5-0. All right, any written communications that we haven't already discussed this evening?
No, ma'am, nothing.
All right, thanks. This is your final moment of oral communications. You have 2 minutes, 805-875-8201, 805-875-8201, if you would like to call in for your last 2 minutes of public comment. And while we wait to see if anybody calls in, I'll just fill the airtime with lompocmusicfestival.com. And if you haven't already had 20 phone calls, you still have the opportunity to call and find out. I didn't write down the phone number, I would have repeated it, so. All right, seeing no one call in and no one rise, we will close oral communications and bring it back to council for comments and meeting reports. Councilmember Vega.
I'd like to thank everybody that's paying attention. If you see a little bit of humor coming out, it's all in fun, okay? Sometimes the mayor and I have to. Somehow, I think it's the kid in me when I was getting in trouble in school. And I hope you guys understand it's all in fun, and thanks for attending. Yeah, I got ice cream, yeah.
Hey, when you've been a substitute teacher, you just, herd cats. Okay, so next, Councilmember Cordova.
No reports.
Thank you. Councilmember Starbuck.
I have no reports.
Thank you. Councilmember Ball.
A couple quick things. This last week, I got to attend the grand opening, ribbon cutting for Aldi, the new grocery store. It's not a place, it's further away from my house. I've got a couple other places that I like to go, but it's really exciting for so many people that do not have vehicles, don't have transportation. They rely upon walking or using their scooter. They haven't had a grocery store. Vaughn's was there for so many years, so to have a resource right there and basically our most densest population. That's really exciting. So I'm really happy to have that here. Again, just a shout out again to the Lompoc Concert Association. I still haven't been to one yet, but I need to go to one, and now I'm more motivated to do so. So they're celebrating 75 years, so go look them up. Maybe I'll see you at a concert. And then if I could take a quick second, it's been mentioned in a couple different ways that if we spend too much money on staff or salaries and some of these things. And I hear that over and over, and I think that's a fair discussion, paying people fair wages and such. But we're still underpaying at the city of Lompoc. But I want to give a shout out to some of these folks that could go to other places and make more money, and the stuff that they're bringing to Lompoc. So our staff, and again, my numbers may be a little bit off. If I'm really wrong, you'll let me know. But thanks to our staff, not us up here, our staff, more than a couple $1 million was found in grants to fix Beatty Park. That's staff. That's our staff doing that. That's not somebody else saying, hey, I have a good idea, I found something online. That's our staff doing the hard work. Millions of dollars are going to go into College Park to update that. That would not happen unless we had staff understanding our local demographics, where the need is, where the lowest income areas are, the areas that might qualify for grants. That's not us up here. That's city staff doing that work. Pioneer Park, we've got the feds, they like us for a change, and they're going to give us some extra money to fix Pioneer Park, where regardless of your politics, your kids are going to go play Little League Baseball or slide down a slide. It's city staff that's connecting the dots to make sure that we can access these funds to give our kids a chance. So when I hear things like, well, maybe you should do something else to give our kids something to do, consider that it is city staff doing their due diligence, trying to figure out where the money is, because if we don't have money, we can't do anything. So again, thank you to city staff for working so hard, tirelessly, for doing things behind the scenes that you don't get a lot of thanks for actually working hard to make our community better. Our kids are going to thrive over the next few years because we've made these investments. So I'd like to pat myself on the back and all these folks. We've done very little other than just say yes or no. It really is city staff that's doing the hard work. So I just wanted to say thank you to you guys. And that's all I got.
List of meetings. So I attended the monthly meeting regarding Project Opioid, trying to come up with a regional plan to address the too many overdoses. In particular, Lompoc has a high rate of those, so hopefully soon we'll be able to move forward on a couple of the ideas and concepts that are out there. But Fentanyl is Forever is a campaign that's already out there, so there are resources. So if you're dealing with family members that have fentanyl issues, or just teenagers who might not be aware of the dangers of taking a drug that's mismarked at a party or something, it's good information. Please utilize it. It's a program by the county's behavioral wellness called Fentanyl is Forever. Santa Barbara County Area Governments, Air Pollution Control District, Northern California Power Agency, all of those meetings. Ribbon cutting for the Lompoc Vitamin Store. We have a vitamin store again, so congratulations and thank you for coming out to our community. I want to thank the Chamber for their annual awards banquet and to all the winners of this year's awards. You all deserved it. To the Summer of Change conference by the youth from Future. Councilmember Cordova and I attended that day. It was really amazing to watch these young people get up and speak about issues and connect with each other and be passionate about their community. So I look forward to seeing more from those young people. I want to thank AYSO for the invitation to come out to Riverbend Park and prep for the soccer season. I got up early and went out and filled as many holes as I could before leaving to go to the Summer of Change conference. And then also to Communify for all the backpacks they gave out the same day. I stopped by and I wanted a backpack with unicorns on it, but I'm not going to school, so I didn't take one. I left that for somebody else. Things going on with the base. Myself and some staff attended the California Defense Community Conference last week and connected more with state representatives about issues that the base is having and how can we address it, mostly in the arena of housing issues, licensure, for spouses to be able to work in the state of California, and school issues. And then also attended the Combined Force Space Command, change of command out at Vandenberg. That is a part, it's housed out at the base, but it is the Joint Command Center for all of the partners from across the world that we partner with as a military to monitor and support all of the boots on the ground doing work in other countries and in our own country and supporting countries like Ukraine during the war. So it was impressive to meet the incoming commander. He has spent time here on the Central Coast before, so we're really excited to have him back. And then we have a couple of exciting things going on in the community. College Park, again, the community input meeting at 6 p.m. on the 13th here in City Hall for that $3.6 million grant to improve the skate park. So please come and provide that input. Lots going on at the library. This month is library card sign-up month, so if you don't have a card, go get one. And you can sign up online or in person. They're also having a tiny art show. So before the 29th, go pick up your 4x4, create your artwork with the kit, and return it by the 29th so you can compete in the tiny art show they're having. And they're also having at their monthly meeting on the 29th an opportunity to be part of the Grossman Gallery. So if you're a local artist and would like your work shown at the gallery, be sure and drop off your samples at between 4:15 and 4:30 p.m. on this September the 29th and come back at 6:15 to pick it up and see if you were part of the group chosen to be in their cycle of art for the next coming months. And last but not least, a big shout out to the Vandenberg Space Force Base leadership class for coming out this past Saturday and working on Riverbend Bike Park and also providing a barbecue to all those AYSO parents. So again, thank you for contributing to our community. Thank you for our community supporting the base. It's an important part of our community, always has been and should be. And I just want to say, I hope everyone had a relaxing Labor Day and took some time to stay out of the heat and remain cool. Lompoc got a little bit warmer than we're usually expecting, but this Texan enjoyed it. So I will adjourn this meeting to the next regular meeting at 6:30 p.m. on September 20th, 2022.